Hello Vikings, and welcome to the Valheim Guide, episode 11 today, where we are going to be looking at bone mass. And this is probably going to be quite a long episode. There is a lot to talk about, but it is a very exciting and challenging progression in the game, so I'm excited to do this with you guys. But as it's going to be a longer video, guys, make sure you go and get your snacks, sit back, and enjoy. So, finding bone mass's location is obviously the first thing you need to do, and when you found it, you'll have it on the map like this. As you can see, I have not explored the area around here, so we're going to have to sail up to bone mass and kind of look at the geography around him and look at how we're going to land and get ourselves set up there and all that good stuff. Now, if you have already done this, like for example, if your bone mass was in a place like this, where you've already explored it and stuff, you might want to skip ahead in the video if you're here just for the tutorial purposes. But if you are going to be doing it the way that I'm doing, then we're going to have a look into this fully. Now, just to say, in order to find that bone mass location, in episode 8 of this series, which was my swamp guide, I do a full like how to find him as part of that video. But if you want the too long didn't watch version, here we go. Basically, you can find his location from these things. These are sunken crypts that you'll find in swamp biome. So when you're in them, you'll see these things right here. These are rune stones that you can find in those sunken crypts, and yeah, that's how you find his location in them. So I highly recommend that you set up a safe portal area somewhere near your bone mass spawn. So we're going to go over with the materials to do that in a second. Now, if you're like me and you need to sail in order to get to this location, what I recommend you do is go through the portal, the closest one you have nearby. So for us, that's this one right here, and then make your boat up and sail off that way. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see on me right here, if we go to miscellaneous, I have all the materials on my to make the longship. So I'm going to go ahead, portal through, make up my longship, and then get the other stuff that I want to take with me, things like items to make up the new portal when we get there, and also to take some wood to protect it. Now, just to say, I have gone ahead and set up a nice portal here as well, ready for when we get to the bone mass one. Just called it BM for bone mass because it's nice and quick to set up. And I've got it in my house because then when I portal back from bone mass, I can get comfort very quickly, which could be useful during the fight. One thing to say though is before you head off, it's a good idea to think about any meads that you might want for the fight, because you can basically get them fermenting while you are gone. So you see in here, I've got some poison resistant mead that is fermenting. So once I tap that item, basically you get 6 back for each one that you make up, and in here I've got a load of different meads stored. So I've got loads of poison resistance mead and also some other ones. Now let's just have a quick look at the recipes for those, and I'll talk you through them a little bit. Just to say, the poison resistance mead, in my opinion, is essential for the bone mass fight. As for the minor and medium healing meads, which you can make up, and also the stamina meads, these are optional. I would say they can be very useful, particularly the healing meads. You can see here I've already made a few of these up in preparation for this, because at that moment of the fight when you're about to die, if you go ahead and have one of these medium healing meads, all of a sudden you're okay again. And even the stamina meads can be quite useful in the moment if you're running very low on stamina, just to make sure you can get in those extra hits and things. But basically, get those done before you head off, because they can of course be fermenting in the meantime. Okay, so here I am over at this portal area. I've got my boat set up. As you see, this is as close as I can get to the bone mass location. So we're going to sail off in a minute, but just remember to take with you, of course, your materials to make up the portal when you get there, and also some wood to protect it. It can also be a good idea to make sure that you're rested and that it's daytime before you go, as when you land at the next swamp biome, which is where bone mass is going to be, you will of course encounter mobs and things like that when you get there. So for that reason, it's also good to make sure you've got some weapons and armor and tools and some reasonable food and that sort of thing. All the usual things that you want to take. Obviously, it's better to be safe because you really don't want to die, especially before you get that new portal set up. Okay, so here we are, getting close to the bone mass location, as you can see. And we've got pretty lucky here because we can land here in the swamp. It's still daytime, so it's not going to be too bad for the mobs. And it looks like there's even like a little meadows bit here. So obviously, depending on the map you're on and that sort of thing, this is always going to be different for you. But essentially, you just want to follow the same steps each time of trying to make sure that you land somewhere as safe as you possibly can. Sometimes you can find an adjacent biome that's a bit safer. So you got the swamp maybe next to like a black forest, or sometimes a meadows or something like that. And then I always like to prioritize getting my portal set up. So I'm actually going to make my bone mass portal for now, just on this little island here. I'm going to make it and protect it and stuff like that. Then we can always move it later. But then at least if I die when I'm going and scouting the bone mass location, I can teleport back to somewhere nearby, which is obviously very useful. And just like that, we have a nice protected portal here. I'll leave the boat here for now. You could, if you wanted to, like smash the boat up and go and take the items back through the portal to keep them safe. But it's pretty quiet around here and it's daytime, so I'm just going to leave it. So what I'm going to do now is go and head towards the bone mass location. And I really want to scout out that sort of area and have a good look at, you know, everything around that and see what's nearby. So for this, I am going to pop home first. I'm going to get myself some poison mead, and I recommend that you guys do the same and have some good food before you go exploring through the swamp. So here is the bone mass location, and I have to say I'm pretty pleased with this one. The reason being is some of the things I want to do are going to be quite easy. Like, for example, I want to hoe a lot of the area around here, so we're not having to swim through loads of water during the fight, which can slow us down and drain our stamina and stuff like that. And this is going to be quite easy to do. There's a few little like rivers around here that we can hoe quite nicely. The other thing I'm going to do is make sure I go and check for any spawners that might be nearby. So I'm pretty sure I saw one just over this way. We've got some, I think a Drago spawner over here. Yeah, it looks like just over this way. And we're going to go and destroy those as well ahead of the fight. So let's go and do a few things of that now, and I'll try and cut this down to just the highlights of what I recommend you do in preparation. Okay, so here's a spawner right here. You can see we've got a couple of spawners just up there, and you can actually shoot them with your bow, and this prevents any mobs from spawning while you're shooting them, so that you can actually destroy them a lot easier than having to go in and fight the mobs whilst you're destroying those spawners. So this one here should almost be gone now. I think this is the skeleton spawner or something here. I keep missing my shots, which doesn't help, but there's two there. There's the one behind it as well, so maybe this shot here will get it, and then we're going to do the same with the other one. Okay, so you can see now we've cleared all the spawners in this little area that was here, and the reason that we're doing this is because we don't want to have to fight any mobs unnecessarily during the bone mass fight. Bone mass and his ads are always going to be difficult as it is, so we just want to make things a little bit easier, and there's another spawn up there I'm going to take care of. So do recommend you have a little run around. If you see spawners like this, do destroy them before you get started with the bone mass fight. So around the bone mass spawn area, I've now hoed it pretty well. There's still like a little bit of wet here, but you're never going to get rid of all of that, but we can run through all of this stuff. So I'm now pretty happy that we've got a wide enough area around this spawn area in order to fight him. Also on the map here, I've kind of gone around like a decent sort of radius around this bone mass portal, and the big thing that I look for is whether or not there's any planes nearby, because if there are and you get like death skeeters flying in at you or Fulings or anything like that come in, it can make things a little bit tricky during the fight. Now what I've got here as well is on top of this crypt, I've got a bit of a retreat portal. So the only way to get up here is by jumping up on here and then up on top, and I failed. So basically though, the only way that you can get up here is by jumping, and the mobs are not going to be able to do that. So you're pretty safe with this portal up here. Now this is my second portal here because I didn't want to risk losing the first. So over here-ish, I do still have, like if I put a little dot, like basically around here was the island I came in on. I do have a little way of getting back to a portal there as well, so I've got a second one. But yeah, once this fight's over, I'll change this around. But this will take me right back into my house, and then I can sleep and get comfortable, or just retreat if the fight goes badly. So to me, that is enough preparation for the area around the fight. So now we're going to move on to the next step. So in terms of preparation for the fight, there's obviously a lot to talk about, and I'm going to start by talking about the armor, because for me, I actually just use troll armor. Now there's a couple of reasons for this. First of all, it doesn't reduce your movement speed, which can be quite useful in avoiding some of the attacks later on. Also, obviously it requires just troll armor, whereas if we look at the iron armor, for just a level 1 of the iron greaves or the scale mail here, you see it's 20 iron each time, which is quite a lot. So it's going to be 40 iron just to get level 1 of each of those. And then for the helmet, it's another 20. So if you want the full thing, you're looking at 60 iron. Now, that is a hell of a lot of iron. I mean, in here right now, there's almost all of my iron just gone on those bits of armor. And later on again, we need iron for other things like building and such. So I like to save it. But if you want the extra armor, you can, of course, go with iron. If we just have like a hover over here, for example, our troll leather pants, you can see there that the armor for them is 10. So we compare that to the iron, the armor is 14. So you do get the extra armor for that, but just like that's my personal preference. So when it comes to weapons, I do like to upgrade. So I do upgrade that and go for the iron mace, because the mace is the blunt damage, which is what bone mass is most weak to. So again, that is going to be 20 iron just for that, but it is pretty decent. You see it's got a blunt of 55. Our current right here, we got a blunt of only 35. It's a big difference, so I definitely think that is worth making. On top of that, you can, of course, go for the iron shield if you want. Only 10 iron for that. I honestly think a lot of this as well just depends on how much you have on you at the moment, like in terms of the iron that you have. So you can think about that. And of course, there's the banded shield now as well, which is 8 iron. So the buckler there for 10, and the shield there, the block force of 30, if you want to go for that, with a parry bonus of 2.5, whereas the banded has parry bonus of only 1.5, but a block force of 40, and you can choose a style for it, which is kind of cool. So yeah, again, a lot of this is personal preference. What I also kind of like to do personally for this is, if we go into here, we've got the serpent shield, because this does a really good block damage. Now, if we hover over here, you can see there the block armor of 60, block force of 100. Now, this is going to be very useful in protecting us in this fight, and I find that that is actually more useful than worrying about staggering enemies. I think staggering does have its time and its place, but for me, this is the shield I'm going to use. So what I actually do is I take the serpent shield, and I also take the bronze buckler, and then if I find that I'm getting overrun by the adds that Bonemass spawns, I might switch to my buckler so I can parry them and kill them more easily. But we got the serpent scale shield in the previous episode, so I think I want to use that. I should also mention you can also make the iron tower shield, and here's all these stats for this on here. So this isn't too bad, but I don't feel it's worth the resources compared to the serpent scale shield, which I think just is basically going to be better for us because we've already got that. If you haven't already got that, then this might be an alternative for you though, so I did want to mention that. So the other thing to mention about weapons is one thing I do recommend you take with you is the stag breaker, and you see here I've upgraded mine to level 3. This shouldn't be too difficult for you to do at this stage of the game. It's mostly materials that you should already have, but this is going to be very useful if you get into a situation where there's a lot of Bonemass's adds around you, but also as it's a blunt force of 32 there, it's pretty decent. You see a blunt force of 32 from that, so it's a blunt force of 55 from the iron mace, so it's less, but it's still pretty decent, and it can be used against Bonemass as well. So I would recommend that you take one of these with you if possible, even if it's just a level 1, as when you see the fight later on, you'll see how this can help. Now the other thing to talk about is some sort of ranged weapon. So you can see I am going to be taking with me here my fine wood bow. I've upgraded it to level 2. You can upgrade it further, but I like to very quickly get to the Dragger Fang, so I'm not going to worry too much about this one. This will be good enough for this battle. I'm also going to be using the flint head arrows for this fight. I don't want to use iron because although they are obviously better, it's a lot of iron to be using up. I'm quite careful with my iron, I suppose. Again, this is up to you, but you'll see that we are going to be able to defeat Bonemass just using these. Okay, so another thing to, of course, talk about is food, and you'll have all different options, obviously, and it really depends on how you like to play the game, but I'll briefly go through the ones that I'm taking with me. The Serpent Stew, to me, this is a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, a health of 80 at this stage of the game is insane, so if you have the ability to get this, if you've watched my Serpent Guide video to do that, then yeah, I would highly recommend this, of course. Then I'm also taking some turnip stew and also the muck shake, because I really want that stamina. I mean, 55 stamina from this one and 50 from this one. We've already got really good health here from the serpent stew, and I think stamina is very important, and sometimes people prioritize health, and of course that's completely fine if that's how you like to do it. But for the Bonemass fight, I definitely want to go down this route, particularly given the fact that I'll also be taking with me some of these things. So we've got the medium healing mead here. I'll be taking those. I talked about the poison resistant mead as well and said about how that is essential in my opinion, and I will take some stamina mead because I have them, so why not, just in case I do actually need them. So of course you'll also need to take the materials to spawn in Bonemass, and you'll need 10 of the withered bones to do this. Now these can be gotten from the sunken crypts, so that's how you can find those, both in muddy scrap piles and just kind of lying around. So if you don't have enough of those, then that's where you'll need to go back to. And the final thing I recommend is to sleep before you go, so you've got as much daytime as possible. Obviously in the swamp at night, more difficult mobs will spawn and there'll be more of them, so just be a little bit more tricky. Plus obviously you want to maximize your rested buff, of course, so that's why I've got my portal right here, so I can actually sleep, go through that portal, go in and spawn him, and maximize that effect. Okay guys, so here we are, fully rested, and we're about to go through our portal. What I'm going to do is make sure I eat my food first, of course, get that all happening, and I'm also going to make sure I've got my mace and my shield equipped, and then I'll have myself a poison mead. So all I'm going to do now is just kind of sit down here, wait for my health and stuff to bank up. This looks very comfortable. And then we will head through. Worth mentioning as well, it's good to have your Ike through ability here. It all helps, so I do recommend that you use your Ike through ability during the fight. Okay guys, so here we go. You can see here what my health and stamina is looking like. It's pretty decent for this fight, I would say, and we are ready to go. So let's spawn in Bonemass. Wish me luck guys, it's always a little bit difficult. So we put the bones up here, hit number 7, and in he comes. So first thing you want to do is find where all of these dots are kind of congealing and see where Bonemass is going to be spawning in. Here he is, because then we can get a good few hits in on him straight away. So that's obviously very useful to do that. And looks like he's going to spew first. So while he's spewing, we can go and give him a good few hits here, just like this. And now he's going to come at us, and I know that from experience, so we're just going to get out of the way a little bit while he comes towards us. And he's going to throw some ads here. So this is another one of his attack, right? Throwing the ads. Best thing to do, I think, is just to get right over to them and get hitting them straight away as soon as they land in order to sort of maximize the damage against them. So let's see if we can roll out the way there, give him a hit here. And then we're going to be quite patient during this fight. We don't want to like let our stamina get too low, because if we ever need it, like, oh, okay, didn't mean to do that. Meant to do a dodge roll. Yeah, if you need your stamina, then obviously, you know, you could die if you don't have it. So we want to make sure that we're like being quite careful here with fighting him and just saving up our stamina as best as we can. Now, we'll try and show a lot of this fight so you guys can get a good feel for like how we do this. And there we go, big hit from him there, which is why you do need a bit of health as well. I mistimed my dodge roll away, which is what happens. Now we're just going to recover a little bit. Of course, I've got my meads on me if I want them. If I wanted to use a healing mead here, for example, which as we've got it, why not? Let's just quickly have one of those. And okay, so here comes his ads. We're going to land on them again and give them a big hit straight away before they get too much chance to do anything to us. There we go. And now he's spewing up again. And we're back to 136, which is why the mead here can be so useful. Okay, dodge roll there. Again, when he's going to do his swipe attacks, you just want to kind of try and dodge roll and time them well. That's how I find is like normally the best way. Although when I mistime them like that, not so much. But again, that's where our really good food comes into play. Now, if you get into a bit of trouble, another thing you can do is kind of use the altar like this to shield yourself from him. You see here, I ran out of health mead because I've got to wait another minute before I can use another one. And my health did get kind of low. So yeah, this is a good time to just kind of use the altar to your advantage. You see when I'm running around here like this, he's not really able to do much to us at all. In fact, nothing really to us. So yeah, it can be a good thing, a way of protecting yourself. Now, incidentally, let's have a look at the damage the arrows can do just while we've got a chance here. You can see it's really minimal. So they're not really for Bonemass. They're more for his ads to sort of, you know, take them down if you need to. Where did he throw them? Over here. But, you know, at the same time, it can be useful against him. Good job I got that block in there. So he does do a lot of damage when he swipes, guys. Those are the ones you want to be really careful of. Now, incidentally, if you're holding the Serpent Shield and you let him take a swipe at you and you just kind of block with it, we'll just see here what happens. So there we go. You can see here how good the Serpent Shield is. And this is why I recommend this, because it doesn't allow him to do very much damage to you at all when he swipes at you, which is a big attack, but the Serpent Shield is just good like that. Just a quick side note here, guys. When you're holding the Serpent Shield to block and he hits you, that there was probably one of the lower end amounts of damage that he'll do. So he can still do a reasonable amount of damage. So don't think you're like invincible for this, and if you've only got a little bit of health, he could still kill you if you don't get it right. So do be careful. I don't want to. I realized when I was editing, I made this look like it's like almost no damage, but sometimes it can be a fair bit more damage than that. And just like that, guys, he is gone. Boom. So we just kind of repeated exactly the stuff that I was showing you right there. There was a couple of times when my health did get pretty low. I did use all 5 of the health meads, so I do recommend you take them with you very much. But you got to bear in mind as well, the reason I used a lot of those health meads was because I prioritized stamina with my food. So if you prioritize health with your food, then I highly recommend the stamina meads. But basically, he is a difficult boss, but that is how I recommend that you fight against him. Basically, just taking your time and going in when you get the good opportunities to do so. One of the best being when he is throwing up, because you can see him about to throw up quite clearly ahead of time, and then you can just run in towards him. This is where having the good stamina really helps, and give him a good few hits. You can get 3 if you're like far away from him, so you can get your special hit in on him, and if you're really close at the time when he starts to throw up, you can sometimes get 6 on him before he starts to attack you again, and you need to retreat. But that is how I recommend you do it. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the aftermath of defeating Bonemass and what it really means for our progression in the game. So you want to come to spawn and go ahead and attach the Bonemass trophy, and you'll see there we get a damage modifier where we're then all of a sudden more resistant versus blunt, slash, and pierce when we use this Bonemass power. So this has a lot of uses, particularly during like boss battles and going through the plains and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just a nice little progression through the game, basically. The other thing we get as well is the wishbone. So when we right click this, it becomes equipped, and then we can sense hidden objects. Now, this is most commonly used to find silver, and this will be in an upcoming episode on this series for sure, as silver is sort of the next step after Bonemass, basically the mountain biome in general, because it's not just the silver, obviously, like that's where Moda lives, and you can get obsidian and all this other stuff as well. So definitely something that we'll be covering, but basically it beeps when there's stuff under the ground. If you want to see more of that sort of stuff, I've done full tutorial guides in the past on the mountain biome, and you can see this wishbone in action there if you wish. So with the Bonemass fight all done and dusted, I just wanted to do a little bit of a review because I noticed a couple of things. For example, I didn't use the Stagbreaker at all, nor did I use the Bronze Buckler. Now, you guys may have a different experience to me, but if you're kind of struggling to get materials for certain things and you want to prioritize, these two may be things that you don't actually require. I also only shot 3 arrows, as you can see here, so again, not overly important, and I spent quite a lot of flint on those, so you might want to save this for other things. As far as the meads go, now I got through 2 of the poison meads, but I would say you definitely want to take more than that. I mean, you're going to make up at least 6 anyway, so you just as well take a few with you. But it's also a good idea to have one at home, so if you die, you've got a spare one to get back to your things. I also used just one of the stamina meads. Again, I just kind of had them, so I thought I'd take them with me. And as far as the food goes, you can see here 1 of each of the serpent stew and the turnip stew, and 2 of the muck shakes. So hopefully this gives you like a bit of an idea as to the things that I used. You can see there how damaged my mace got, so maybe upgrading that might be an idea if you have a lot of iron. But yeah, hopefully this just gives you like a bit of an overview and a bit of an idea. As always, guys, I really welcome your comments. I know I'll get a lot of comments on this video from you guys about like the different ways that you do it, different tactics and things that you have. This is really just showing my way, but I always like to encourage you guys to do things your own way. And I appreciate everyone who shares stuff in the comments, because it does give people ideas and suggestions and stuff that I might not have thought of, or they might not have thought of. So we're going to finish on the log of sitting. The dad jokes are, of course, coming, guys. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Why couldn't Bonemass join the fight? He was swamped with work. Why isn't Bonemass a good liar? You can see right through him. Why couldn't Bonemass move into Shrek's swamp? It was ogre populated. Bonemass, a dragger, and an oozer walk into a bar, and the bartender says, "Wow, I'm swamped."